All right, so my name Utibe Hanson. All right, I'm going to be talking about the poems I love. I have several poems I love. In fact, my interaction with poetry as you know is long in the sense that when I used to see poetry before I started writing poetry, I knew poems. My craft was drawing at the time, and then later I moved to prose writing. But I knew poems, but I never thought human beings wrote them. I don't know how that could have happened. I never thought human beings wrote them. I just know there were poems and they existed. You could read them in a book. And I had this book by uh, Anthology of African Poetry by Senano and Vincent. Can't remember how that book is called now. But that's the book. I read the poems and of course several other interactions. So some of the poems I love. One, The Vanity of Human Wishes by Samuel Johnson. Beautiful poem. The poem tries to tell us that there is nothing in human life, the strivings and all of those things that can genuinely satisfy us. So it talks about it proposes some Christian ideals that one could imbibe, to derive a sense of satisfaction and peace in the world. And of course, it interacts with a lot of other thematic preoccupation and mostly, pitching philosophy over politics in the sense that, it is good to come to live by philosophical concept to generate personal stories or personal philosophy from, interaction with life and letting those guide you and then interacting them with Christian ideals. So let observation with extensive view survey mankind from China to Peru, remark each anxious toil, each eager strife, and watch the busy scenes of crowded life. Then say how hope and fear, desire and hate overspread with snares the clouded maze of fate, where wavering man, betrayed by venturous pride, to tread the dreary path without a guide, as treacherous phantoms in the mist delude, shuns fancied hills or chases airy good. So the way this poem opens, let observation with extensive view survey mankind from China to Peru. It's giving us the idea that you know this poem has considered everything about life in that sense, and this is what the author or the personer in that sense has come around to say, like, with all of these observations I've made, this is what I think is this is what I think can serve, this is what I think can, because the human life is fraught with pursuing happiness, pursuing satisfaction. So the person that tells us, with all of these things that I have come to, this is what I believe, this is what I suggest, this is what I tell you that it is, of course. And it's poetry. Poetry encodes within itself the ideals that a society should live by. And then if we watch many of the civilizations that have, crumbled with time, the people listen to their politicians rather than their poets. So, okay, let me just pick another excerpt from here. Let history tell where rival kings command, and dubious title shakes the martyred land, when statutes glean the refuse of the sword. How much more safe the vassal than the lord? Low skulks the hind beneath the rage of power, and leaves the wealthy traitor in the tower. Untouched his cottage, and his slumbers sound, though confiscation's vultures hover round. Alright, now look at this part. The needy traveler, serene and gay, walks the wild earth and sings his toil away. Does envy seize thee? Crush the upbraiding joy, increase his riches and his peace destroy. New fears in dire vicissitudes invade, the rustling break alarms and quivering shade. Now, look at this story here. There is somebody A needy traveler, serene and gay, is just going about his life, and is just happy with life. And then the person now says, okay, you see that man there? You aren't as happy as he is. Do you know what you can do to destroy his peace? Give him wealth. He said, does envy seize thee? Crush the upbraiding joy, increase his riches, and his peace destroyed. Now you have given him riches, you have given him things to keep him awake at night. To you know, that is just what. So the vanity of human wishes is generally about this vanity of human wishes. From the title, of course, it's an imitation of juvenile tense satire. So it's mostly a satire. It ridicules human behavior and points us to a higher, something higher ideals that we can live for. So I am going to go on to the second poem that I love. Right, the second poem I love here is Thomas Gray's elegy written in a country churchyard. Beautiful piece of work. Now, this poem took the poet 8 years to write. All right, took him 8 years to write, mostly because of his melancholic nature. But the poem it's one of the greatest works in literature. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea. The plowman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the moping owls dust the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower, molest her ancient solitary reign. Beneath those rugged elms, that yew tree's shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. So generally, this poem, elegy written in a country churchyard. A churchyard is a cemetery, a burial place. So elegy written in a country churchyard, you know, it is assumed that this person or the poet, went to the churchyard and then began to contemplate how did these people, how how did they live really, and then he starts contemplating and then writing this because at the tail end of the poem there is something he has uh epigraph, epitaph, yes, epitaph, where he now talks about what he leaves on the. Look at this part where he says, let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. So still contemplating the lives of these people. It's like, okay, probably a lot of them, you know, were poor people. There was nothing on this earth to their name. And it's like, let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destinies obscure. They might not, have been in the world stages where everyone knows them, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile, the short and simple annals of the poor. That's the short and simple history of these poor people. Ambition shouldn't mock them because really, this was what life could. We think about this poem, tries to make us see that sometimes you don't choose your fate chooses you. So this is the fate that had chosen these people. And so you, not, I mean, the other person who has a different fate to have been chosen for, or a different fate having chosen him or her, shouldn't mock this other person whose fate. And it's very right to think about it in this sense because many times what directs our life follows from our environment, follows from where we were born into, follows from what we have been exposed to. There's a line from The Great Gatsby that says, Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, that says, uh, in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father taught me not to make judgment of people, because not everyone that you see have been exposed to the amount of privilege that you've had. So many times when they behave in the way that they behave, they do things in the way that they do, and then you are shocked that, why is this person like this? Mostly because of the privilege. However, it's not an excuse to remain, you know, within that ambit, the confines of what life chooses for you. But this poem tries to make us understand that, sometimes our fate, chooses us, and there's hardly anything we can do about it. All right, so I can move on to the poem. Is pretty long. It's written in iambic pentameter, beautiful, beautiful, and it's rhymed ABAB. It's beautiful. It's one of the greatest works in literature. So I can move away from this. I mean, from something melancholy, and then go to the third poem I love, 100 Love Sonnets by Pablo Neruda. All right, I think sonnet 17. Okay, so it reads, I do not love you as if you were salt rose or topaz, or the arrow of carnations the fire shoots off. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved in secret between the shadow and the soul. I love you as the plant that never blooms, but carries in itself the light of hidden flowers. Thanks to your love, a certain solid fragrance, risen from the earth, lives darkly in my body. I love you without knowing how or when or from where. I love you straightforwardly, without complexities or pride. So I love you because I know no other way than this, where I does not exist, nor you. So close that your hand on my chest is my hand. So close that your eyes close as I fall asleep. It's so beautiful. Like, love. I'm thinking anybody who hasn't experienced love at some point in their life might not really have a reason to live, because even Charlie Chaplin said most of everything that we need power to do can be done with love. Love can pull you towards something beyond yourself. And the romantic love between two people can come so close. They can become so intertwined that they sort of their psyche sinks. What one thinks about is what the other is thinking about. And the joy, the proximity, or how they morph into each other becomes such that, so that your hand on my chest is my hand, so close, so close that your hand on my chest is my hand, so close that your eyes close as I fall asleep. So when two become one, even, I am a Christian, and most of the ideals I live by are Christian ideals. And beyond that, um, the Bible tells us about, in contemplating marriage or the love between a man and a woman. It says that two shall become one. That is, they shall leave their father and their mother and shall be joined together. This poem is an explication or a codification, a further codification of that uh statement from the Bible. Yeah, it's a beautiful love poem. And then some love poems do not endure because not many people can talk about love. Love is something that has been, is, and will be. So not many poets can contemplate love in ways that are inviting. But Pablo Neruda in this poem has successfully done that. So I move on to the fourth poem that I love. All right, the title is A Song for Myself by Melvin Towson. Now, this poem is written in monosyllable. That is, each line has only two syllables. And it's in a sing-song form that continues fluidly. I have a poem, in this manner in my collection. The poem is Invocations. It's goes in this manner. So, but let's read Melvin Towson's A Song for Myself. I judge my soul, ego nor mole. A man is what he saves from rot. The corn will fat a hog or rat. Are these dry bones a huts or thrones? So this second stanza, so this poem is a contemplation, like many thoughts fused in one. Like this second stanza says, the corn will fat a hog or rat. Are these dry bones a hut or throne? So it tells death is the leveler. When we see a dry bone, we don't know who it was. So I mean, so we should live life in the way that, because some people live as though they would never die. And of course, I'm not saying you should now withdraw from living, but one should live life in the way that one knows really that life is a gift, and so must be maximized without infringing on another person, without being greedy, as most of our politicians do. They take beyond what they need and they store it away to spoil, while several other people walk the street are incapable of, you know, fending for themselves or living as truly as they would want to live. So, are these dry bones a huts or thrones? Who filled the moat twixt sleep, twixt sheep and goat? Let death, the twin of life, slip in. Prophets arise, max heed unwise, divide the earth by class and birth. Caesars without, the people shall rout. Caesars within, crush flat as stain. Who makes a noose envies the goose. Who digs a pit dices for it. Alright, now look at this. Who makes a noose envies the goose. Who digs a pit dices for it. Again, there is a reference, there's an allusion to the Bible here where the that scripture says, whosoever diggeth a pit shall fall into it. So yeah, the poet says, who digs a pit dices for it. Shall tears be shed for those whose bread is thieved headlong? Tears right, no wrong. Like, of course, again, the political contemplation of a people where the political class are constantly seeking new ways to steal from the people so that they continue to keep them in a place where they can't fight back, so that they put them, sort of weaponizing poverty so that they can come around again in the next election here and, get the people to hand them power, because it's the person who is flat on the ground that needs the barest help, you know. But the person who is standing might not really. A drowning man will hold on to almost anything. So it becomes as though it's intentional to keep the people drowning, so that once in a while you throw them a stick and they'll be gasping, trying to grab so that they can hang on to life. So generally, this poem, beautiful poem. I love the poem so much. I first had interaction with Melvin Tolson from the film The Great Debaters. So he was the person, like it's an African American film where he tries to groom debaters to, canvas courses, debates across schools, and try to reach something veritable for the black society. So I went and started studying about him, and I came around this poem, and it has been with me ever since. So let me conclude. Let me read the last stanza of the poem, and just okay, yeah. Oh, let me read this part of the poem. It's very nice. It says, Jesus, Mozart, Shakespeare, Descartes, Lenin, Schlatney have lodged with me. So this shows that this poet is a reader. This poet reads across. He interacts with art, interacts with philosophy, interacts with religion, just interacts across, and that gives him. A poet becomes, uh, well, Robert Frost had said, being a poet is a condition, not a profession. But in this age and time, being a poet is both a condition and a profession. And also, being a poet is a self elected office. You elect yourself into that office, and then you canvas for something for the people. And then when you begin to canvas for the people, and sometimes you can go without honor in the sense that the people might never know that you are fighting for them. So a poet is such as goes out to canvas and fight for the people, because it's now both a profession and a condition, unlike what Robert Frost said, that it's just a condition. And when I go in calm or blow from mice and men, Selah, what then? So when I leave this world, what next? I have a poem that says, um, when all the world like a book comes to a close, with no time again left for a summary, I do not know if in that dire repose there'll be grief, joy, pomp, pleasure, or poverty. And to think of the affairs before the end, the heat of love, the strife, the failure, the success, how some over some extreme peace or did ascend, and somehow they sought the name without recess. A prig like a plebe, oblivious of his fate, shall into this boundless earth be made one slave. When night dawns into that rancorous date, with all my book learned skills, I live in a grave. It seems for all I labor ill. I rage with that which brought me here. I thank it still. So once again, I think of life as gifts, even though the indices, the things that happen, would make you wonder, me, I didn't want to come. Why am I having to suffer all of this? Thank you very much. These are the poems I love, and I'm sure you were entertained and you learned something watching this session. Thank you very much.